This is our CLC final project by the communicators. Problem solving and decision making.
Problem solving is defined as the act of defining a problem, determining the cause of the problem, identifying, prioritizing, and selecting alternatives for a solution, and implementing that solution. Problem solving is important both to individuals and organizations because it enables us to exert control over our environment. Problem solving gives us a mechanism for identifying these things, figuring out why they are broken, and determining a course of action to fix them. Problem solving is used in every time a group meets, in any type of setting, and is important for a group to run smoothly. Examples of ways problem solving is used would be, for example, when our CLC sets meeting dates, assignment date times, solving disagreements between group members, establishing a leader in the group, delegating work efficiently, and any other task our CLC group might come across. Learning good problem-solving skills in our group CLC will set us up great for future employers. Employers rate problem-solving skills so highly because the core ingredients are relevant to virtually any job role. Problem solving is a test of your aptitude for assessing situations and analyzing information. No manager wants to hire someone who can't think for themselves and comes running every time something goes wrong. Workplace challenges always require resolution, and employers are always on the lookout for candidates who can come up with and execute effective solutions. Since problem solving is defining a problem, identifying alternative solutions, and implementing one of those solutions, there are many examples of problem solving that can range from deciding what to wear in the morning when you wake up, or in our instance, figuring out who's going to do what part for our final project. Everyone agreed they're okay with being assigned tasks, therefore one person delegated all the work evenly between our 6 group members. This form of problem solving will be a consensus agreement between all members. Another great example of problem solving would be the game Keep Talking and No One Dies. This is a bomb defusal game that we had to play in class on the professor's Switch. One of our group members was tasked with the job of observing the bomb and describing to us what the bomb looked like and what the patterns and problems were on the bomb. And the rest of our group had to look through a handbook and try and find the answers to use to defuse the bomb. And this process of identifying the problem, observing alternate solutions, and then trying to implement what we thought was the correct answer was a great textbook experience for our whole CLC of what problem solving is.
Decision making is the act of choosing an option or a path to achieve a target or common goal. Decision making is an important part of communication, and especially with group members, because it allows them to share their own opinions on the topic. By making a decision on a subject, you are able to drive the project forward based on that decision. Decisions are usually made by either one or several parties, including the authority figure or the people. Decision making is one of the most important aspects of problem solving because when you make a decision, you are basically determining the outcome of the project. If a decision cannot be made, the project will not be able to move forward. Decision making is a powerful tool for solving problems. In one instance, our group was trying to make a decision on what we wanted to talk about for the groupthink project. Groupthink is the act of decision making that discourages creativity or individual thinking. Every group member had to research a time in an era in which groupthink happened. Some of our group members suggested either the Holocaust or the Japanese internment camps. One of our members found out about the Rwandan genocide that happened in Rwanda around the 1990s. Here, the ethnic race of the Hutus were trying to kill off the Tutsis. This is because colonists from France treated the Tutsis much better than the Hutus back in the past. This led to a hatred between the Hutus and the Tutsis because of the oppression. We all decided to try out this idea. Our group turned out to be the most unique and interesting topic of the class. Almost every other group in the classroom presented either the Holocaust or the Japanese internment camps. By making decisions, the outcome can either turn good or bad. Some of those problematic decisions can easily destroy the project, but other times it can save a project. It is important to consider all the options.
How problem solving and decision making work together. Problem solving and decision making work together because in order for a problem to be solved, the group has to make decisions. The group can implement a plan and make their decisions that way in order to solve a problem. If the group isn't progressing and isn't making any decisions, then the problem can't be solved. An example of this is if a group member runs into personal issues and has dropped out of school, the group has to figure out what they're going to do with that person's spot. They can either decide to get a new member, or they can either split the roles of that person with everyone and contribute that way. Once the group decides what will be done, they can make a plan on how to move forward with it and resolve the problem. When it comes to problem solving, there are 4 questions that are used. The first one is questions of fact. These are questions used in groups to distinguish what is true and false. So let's say somebody's given a statement. The group can decide whether that statement is true or whether it's false based on the given statement. The second one is questions of conjecture. Those are questions used in groups to ask if something will happen using valid facts and data. The third is questions of value. These questions are used in groups to see if something is moral or right, and these, depending on the person's morals, it will differentiate from person to person just depending on what they believe is right. And the fourth one is questions of policy. These questions are used to address a specific course of action and to what degree.
Before a group begins to problem solve and make decisions, 5 things should be set in place in order to make this challenging process a little bit more successful. These 5 prerequisites include a clear goal, quality content, structured procedure, commitment to deliberation, and lastly, a collaborative communication climate. Firstly, we have a clear goal. Having a clear goal means that everybody is on the same page and they're all going to work towards the same outcome. So in order to do this, before starting the decision-making process, you must first discuss and come to an overall agreement with your group about what these goals are. Next, we have quality content. Quality content means having an abundant, relevant, and reliable information. The more informed and prepared that a group is, the better able they are to make quality decisions and then solve problems later on. Much like when you're finding a clear goal, you have to discuss how to get this quality content with your group. Sometimes it helps to assess current knowledge, assign task roles, and create deadlines. Next, in order to be successful, groups, especially the large ones, need a structured procedure to follow. These procedures outline the general way that a group will go about making a decision and solving a problem. There are many different types of procedures that a group can follow, but the most successful groups are those who can find a balance between independent, creative, and structured, and coordinated work. So next we have it's crucial that a group has a solidified commitment to deliberation. This means that everyone acknowledges that they must put their full effort into the project at hand. This entails being prepared, being ready to work together and tackle obstacles, and to remain civil overall with one another, even if tensions and conflicts arise. It's super important to remember that people need to actually agree to be a good group member and commit to the deliberation, or else these things are much more likely to fall apart and not get accomplished, especially when you're getting to the final decision-making and problem-solving process. Lastly, a clear goal, quality content, structured procedure, and commitment to deliberation are all super crucial factors that are needed when you're making a decision and problem solving, but without a collaborative communication climate, the group can still fail really badly. So a collaborative communication climate is one where all people feel welcomed and they feel comfortable to share their thoughts, opinions, and information that they've gathered without judgment. If a group follows the alternative route and they have a super attention-heavy and judgmental climate, then no work will get done because people won't feel open for discussions in order to come to an overall decision or problem-solving solution. Now that you have an idea of the different tools that you need in order to make a decision, we can move forward in learning the different methods for decision making. So the 3 different methods for decision making include voting, consensus, and authority rule. Voting can be split up into 2 different types of voting. The first being a 2/3 vote, which means that there has to be double the amount of voters in favor opposed to the ones who are not in favor of the decision being made. And then there's majority rule voting, where the decision that is made goes to the higher percentage of people in favor than not in favor. For example, 52% of voters choose one idea, and that's the idea that people go with. So pros for voting are that voting is a very decisive and efficient way to make a decision. Voting allows people to make a decision without a ton of discussion and argumentation, so it's great for pressing and highly controversial matters. But another pro for voting is the 2/3 vote makes it so that there's a lot less backlash because there's a higher volume of people who agree with the decision that's being made. However, the cons for voting, the biggest is that it's bad for making important decisions, especially with the majority rule. This is because since the vote with over 50% in favor wins, if there is a vote that's decided after the voting scale is 51 to 49%, the 49% that didn't get their idea chosen may give a lot of backlash and be very resentful. Next, we have consensus, which is a general agreement. It's where there's significant effort given to please everyone within a group to accomplish a mutual goal. So a large pro for a consensus is that it creates a united front. It makes it so that all people were included and they feel as though they were heard and that they're ready to tackle any other decision being made. But a con for consensus is that it typically requires equal status or at least exceptional teamwork within a group. These decisions typically lead to needing a more supportive climate so that everyone can feel heard when making a decision, or else people feel as though they can't share their opinions openly, which means that nothing will be able to get done. Especially when people have a typical I want what I want benefits me mentality, then this can just create a lot of tension and the consensus approach becomes useless. Lastly, we have the authority rule type of decision-making method. This is typically where the leader of the group calls the shots and they end up making the final decisions. There's a few pros to this, which are quick decision-making. This is really great for, again, pressing decisions. It means that since there's only one leader who dictates the final decision, there's less people that they ultimately have to consult with. And also there's just a clear chain of command that's set in place. People understand their place in the group or the workplace that the decisions are being made in. However, the cons for authority rule are typically in larger numbers than the pros. This is where 2 heads are better than 1, meaning that the more ideas and knowledge that are incorporated, the more informed a decision made can be. So when only one person's making the decision and they're not hearing the recommendations from a group, it can mean that they may be less knowledgeable and make a terrible decision, versus if there were more people involved in making that decision, a good decision is more likely to be chosen. And lastly, a con for authority rule is that a group can become very resentful. Again, if a group works hard to inform the leader with the best decisions that they believe can be made, but the leader chooses to ignore these recommendations and facts, then people just become very resentful towards that leader.
On this slide, I will discuss the 4 group problem-solving techniques. The first one is brainstorming. Brainstorming is a structured problem-solving procedure that encourages group members to generate as many ideas as possible in a non-evaluative atmosphere. Brainstorming is based on two main principles. The first one being deferring judgment for the reason of improving the quality of input, and the second principle being that the quantity of ideas and output breeds quality. Brainstorming is a really good way for a group to tackle open-ended or unclear problems, and a group should use brainstorming in a crisis or to repair an issue or to even plan a meeting itself. The effectiveness of brainstorming really just depends on the nature of the group and its members. The second problem-solving technique is the nominal group technique, or NGT for short. This technique combines aspects of silent voting with limited discussion to help a group build consensus and arrive at a decision. There are two phases to this technique. The first is idea generating, and this is a stage where group members will assemble their individual ideas and really think about the issue at hand all by themselves. The second phase is evaluation and voting stage, where group members discuss these ideas face to face with one another and then vote for whichever idea they believe is best. The NGT method works very well when individuality is highly valued within the group. This kind of session requires a great deal of time and a skilled moderator. The third technique is the decreasing options technique, or the DOT method, people like to call it for short. It's a procedure that helps groups reduce and refine a large number of suggestions into a manageable number of options. The DOT or DOT method works best when a group needs to sort out a multitude of options. Step one of this process is individually or as a group, ideas are generated and written down. Step two, these ideas are posted for all to see around the room and to consider. Step three, the group will sort through the ideas and rid of any that were bad or overlapped with others. Overlapping with others is super common in this technique just because since everyone's kind of coming up with the options on their own, there should be a lot of similar ones. So in step three, you get rid of those. And then step four, which is the final step, is for the group to prioritize their ideas. Each member of the group gets a sticker dot, hence the name DOT method, to place on the option they feel is best for the group. There's a few advantages of the DOT method, but two are that participation explodes when this method's used. People feel that they want to contribute more, which is super helpful, and groups are able to see the big picture with everything kind of posted up on the wall, which is also a really big plus. The fourth technique is the progressive problem-solving method, which is a procedure that gives a group through a series of systematic problem-solving steps, beginning with task clarification, problem identification, fact-finding, and issue analysis, and is followed by solution criteria, limitations, options, evaluation, selection, and implementation. That's kind of a mouthful, but these 7 steps individually hold a lot of meaning, yet they all work together to form one problem-solving technique. All of these options are super great for groups to run through, and it really just depends on the group which one that they should follow. So those are the 4 problem-solving techniques. On this slide, I'll be discussing creativity and the role it plays within a group. The book states that creativity has 2 components. The first one being the non-judgmental process of seeking, separating, and connecting unrelated ideas and elements. And then the second part being kind of putting those ideas into play, combining these elements into new ideas. As a chairperson or leader of a group, it's really important to encourage and reward creativity just as much as it is to follow meeting guidelines. They both play really important parts, and creative thinking has just as much weight as planning the meeting does. There's actually 4 basic stages to creative thinking, and I'll be going over those in a little bit of depth. The first one is investigation, and this is just when group members gather information and attempt to understand the nature and causes of a problem. The second one is imagination, when group members engage in free thinking by removing procedural and mental roadblocks. This is when the group generates and discusses new and unusual ideas, kind of the creative aspect of it all. The third step is incubation period, and this is kind of just when the group allows a period of time in which imaginative ideas can recombine in new ways, or the group might take a break or focus on another topic or issue. Kind of just the rest period for it all. Let the mind calm down a little bit from all that creative thinking. And the fourth is insight, which is when the aha moment occurs and new approaches or solutions emerge. Group members recognize the breakthrough moment and they'll build and improve upon the idea with one another. Group members that receive training in creative problem solving participate more, criticize one another less, support new ideas that are worthwhile, and overall it has just a really big effect on the group in general. So yeah, that's a little bit about creative thinking. On this slide, I will be discussing enhancing group creativity. So there are 3 strategies for doing this that the book lists. The first is controlling judgment, the second asking what-if questions, and the third using metaphors. So I'm going to dive into the first one, which is controlling judgment. And it's sort of a key for a group that needs to move forward. If a group is kind of dead stuck or doesn't know where to go next, lessening the amount of judgment that each member of the group gives off is really a great way to encourage a group to throw new ideas out there. It's hard to contribute new ideas when a group is constantly tearing someone down for the ideas that they're giving. Group leaders should always try to validate these answers to solutions that a group provides, or the book states that the group should name 2 or 3 positive things about each idea so that individual members still feel motivated to share out. The second strategy is asking what-if questions. And by asking these questions, it can help a group overcome the constraints created by preconceived notions about what one should say or what they should do. And by asking these what-if questions, the group will come to find their aha moment that they've been looking for all along. This kind of goes hand in hand with using metaphors, which is the third strategy for enhancing group creativity. The textbook mentions that metaphors are tools that can help draw out the answers from hiding places in one's mind. It really just gives the group a way to creatively think. And I think this is honestly one of the most important ones. If you didn't know this previously, metaphors are language devices used to compare 2 unrelated things or ideas without using the words such as like or as, so opposite from a simile. But well-chosen metaphors can help groups explain, understand, or guide their creative thinking in ways that they usually would not have. Metaphors really just force a group to look at a situation or an issue in a new and creative way. So these 3 strategies for enhancing group creativity are not the only ones that exist, but they are the ones that were stated in the book. So I just wanted to dive into those really quickly. And yeah, those are the 3 strategies for enhancing group creativity.
So today we're going to be talking about the 4 problem-solving realities, and we're going to first start off with politics. There are 2 types of group members that come with a political condition, one with hidden agendas and one with personal interests. For example, in the textbook it says that a member who wants to get ahead may be reluctant to oppose an idea supported by the boss, and another would be one who knows why a plan won't work may remain silent to make sure that the person responsible for implementing the plan fails. And although, most hardworking and ethical group members do not engage in such deceptive behaviors, so do not assume, group members will care about achieving the same goals simply because it is every man for themselves in this situation that has, those hidden agendas and, just a personal interest. In the textbook, it states that the greatest threat to goal clarity and effective teamwork is having a personal agenda. And the next one would be pre-existing preferences. Some pre-existing preferences that group members will have is confirmation bias and holding different facts. So a confirmation bias is a tendency to discount information that is inconsistent with a preconceived belief. So when we encounter something that challenges, our beliefs and what we think is true, we often view it as flawed. So an example of that was in a textbook, and it talked about the fatally flawed Rolling Stone article about the rape of a female student in a fraternity house at the University of Virginia. So in the article, it had, unconfirmed facts and biased testimonies that fit, a certain narrative by editors and readers about the nature and frequency of rape on college campuses. And then the next one would be holding different facts. So in addition to holding different opinions, we're also holding different facts, which tends to distort our perception about what is real and what isn't. So there's an example in the textbook also about a 2014 analysis of like 928 students about climate change, and it was published in a scientific journal. And there was not one study that disagreed with the view that humans contribute significantly to global warming. And, perceived, preconceived beliefs can, take a while to change around and be different. So then a year later, a 2015 poll was found that an overwhelming majority of the American public, including half of Republicans, support government action, to curb global warming. And, just to eliminate all the different back and forth and things like that, what can, be a resolution to that would be, procedures that require a pro and con discussion of each option, helps members understand the nature and causes of a certain problem. So for the next two, we're going to talk about power. The power of individual group members essentially influences, whether a group accomplish its objectives. And it's obvious that it's an obvious fact that influential individuals impact, collective choices. So having members that have power can either go good or bad in a case, and they will either affect how a person participates and who ideas will be put to the forefront, as far as, at what topic the project will be about, how exactly, the order will go, and who will be doing what on the project. So it's best to be careful about having so much power, for the simple fact that one powerful but misguided member can be responsible for the poor quality of a group's decision. And having power in a group, is just best to not give so much of it, because then I guess having that authority, you can either just direct someone to do something, and it can either go a bad way to where other group members won't have that assurance that they can come to that person with the influential power on how to fix a problem or so forth. So it's best to just maybe just balance it out, so that everyone can be on the same page and work as one. And then as far as organizational culture describes the values, behavioral norms, and expectations that make up the shared environment and perceptions of an organization. Organizational culture is evident in, the way that organization conducts businesses and how it treats its employees and customers. And then in some organizations, they have groups that are given the freedom to, develop their ideas and make their decisions concerning how they work. So it's, real laid back, and they can, work how they see fit. And then there's other ones that are really strict and have rules and limits on how employees can work along and in groups. So the better you understand your group and how everyone works and the way they operate, the more successful and productive the group will be. So it is very important to be aware and make sure that the groups and teams are alert to acknowledging these concerns that some groups may have regarding, their cultures. So they need to be aware of sensitive members' needs, interests, and goals. They need to encourage creativity, innovation, and change. Some need to adapt to culture differences such as collectivism and individualism, high power, low power distance, and other aspects of diversity. Models effective communication practices in interpersonal, group, and public environments. And most importantly, they have to respect gender, age, race, ethnicity, religion, political, and personal differences of organizational members.